Now, in this next clip, we're going to take a look at a United Nations official admitting that this is being put in place right now, a one world government, and that Donald Trump is the only thing standing in the way of all this. And they will do anything in their power to stop him because he is a threat to their agenda. So you're going to want to go get into this interview with this United Nations official. He's a legal officer in the treaties department of the UN Department of Legal Affairs. So this is not some low-level player. This is a major player at the United Nations with tremendous power. Now let's get into this video with this United Nations official.
So is globalism one of the goals for the UN?
Absolutely. It's a threat to the absolute power of the United States.
One of the defining features of this MAGA movement is the ultranationalism. And one of the main enemies are what they call the globalists. And the definition of a globalist.
One of the objectives of the UN is to create an identity of a global citizen.
They create this institution, which is the closest we've ever got to kind of like a world government.
You know, the United Nations does not have its own army. Absolutely.
I'm not sure the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump. The United States government funds 27% of the UN budget.
Is that more than anyone else?
Oh, by a long stretch.
A United Nations without the action of the United States backing it up, it's not going to be effective.
The purpose of Donald Trump is to end the international institutions that somehow level the playing field. It's a movement that is deeply nationalistic. It's America first, America, make America great again, America, America, America. He wants America first.
So does the UN not want him? Yeah, because I remember her.
We are terrified. They're terrified.
So the internal vibe of the UN is like no one wants Trump? Because
Absolutely nobody wants Trump.
so is the UN just like useless now?
I would say for 95% of issues related to international peace and security, yes.
Okay, so that clip had a lot of music playing in the background, and I don't know if you could hear all of it, so we'll go over some of the details today. This guy from the UN, this official, didn't realize he was being recorded. And so they go over this conversation, and she asked him right off the bat, is globalism one of the goals of the United Nations? And he said, absolutely. And it's a threat to the absolute power of the United States. So as long as the United States is powerful, they're going to have some big problems. So then he goes on to say, one of the defining features of the MAGA movement is ultranationalism. And that is one of the main enemies that they called the globalist. And he said, I am the definition of a globalist. Okay. So then he goes, one of the objectives of the United Nations is to create an identity of a global citizen. They created the United Nations, which is the closest we will ever get to a kind of one world government. Okay, so right there, he's admitting exactly what they're trying to do, that they're trying to form a one world government and a global citizen. Okay. So now you know that he says that the United Nations doesn't have its own army, and she asked, should it? And he said, absolutely. Okay. And then she says, I'm not sure that the United Nations as an institution is going to survive a second term by Donald Trump. Okay, so he's admitting that it's exactly Donald Trump is a direct enemy to this one world global economy. So she goes on to say that the United States government funds 27% of the United Nations budget, and that's more than anybody else by a long stretch. So we're paying for all of this, by the way, while they're trying to get us to succumb to this one world government. A United Nations without the action of the United States backing it up, he says, is not going to be effective. So now they start to talk about Donald Trump. So the purpose of Donald Trump, he says, is to end the international institutions that somehow level the playing field. So they're trying to put all nations on equal par, and Donald Trump is standing in the way. It's a movement that's deeply nationalistic. He's talking about the MAGA crowd. And it's America first, make America great again, America, 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 he says. Now, I don't get this, okay? This is just deeply puzzling because I don't see any problem with having direct pride in your nation, praying for your nation, and putting your nation first. At the same time, I think we could have care and compassion for other nations too as well, and we can help some people as we get an opportunity. But it seems to be like recently in the United States that the idea of becoming nationalistic and loving your country is a big problem. Why? Because it goes against the direction of this one world government. So this reporter asked him, so does the United States not want him, meaning Donald Trump? And he goes, no. I mean, we're terrified. We're totally terrified of this guy. So is the international vibe at the United States that no one wants Trump? Absolutely. Nobody wants Trump. So is the UN useless now? She asked the last question. And he answers, I would say for 95% of related issues to international peace and security, yes, it's useless. So this guy is admitting here that his own organization doesn't bring about much peace and security throughout the world, and in some ways is a useless organization. But they have one goal, a one world government, a one world economy, and America is standing in the way. So they want this one world government. They want to create this identity of a global citizen. The United States is funding all of this, and Donald Trump is standing in their way. I think he realizes that we're paying a majority of the share of the United Nations, and other nations aren't picking up the tab. They're not paying the bill. But in order for this to happen, the United States must go along with all of this. And this can't happen while Donald Trump is around. Donald Trump spoke when he was president at the United Nations, and you're going to see why they fear him so much. I don't think he said anything that crazy in this video.